Thank you, Paul. It's nice to be here on a Sunday morning, and for the people that are from interstate, welcome to the Gold Coast. We normally have winter a few days each year, and we've got a bit of a winter period at the moment, so welcome. Okay, the Australian Trade and Investment Commission, our name has changed just recently, also more frequently known as Austrade. We contribute to Australia's economic prosperity by helping Australian business to develop their international markets. This map here shows the Austrade International Network, and Austrade has 80 international offices in more than 40 countries around the globe. As you can see, there's quite a heavy chunk of our offices in what we call the Asian markets, the fast-growing markets of the global economy. What Austrade does, we help Australian companies by generating market information and insight, promoting Australian capability to importers and buyers in international markets. We develop policy. We make connections through an extensive network, and obviously at different times we need to leverage the badge of government offshore, and hopefully by providing quality advice and services to Australian business. This one here shows the Austrade network here in Australia, and Austrade has offices in every capital city and territory in Australia. As Paul was saying, I'm from the Brisbane Austrade office, but also Austrade has what we call the Trade Start Network, which is an extension of Austrade's own offices, and it is delivered with or in partnership with state, territory, local government, industry association and chambers of commerce. For example, on the Gold Coast here, there is a Trade Start officer that's attached to the Gold Coast City Council. The prime objective of Austrade's Trade Start network is to assist small and medium-sized exporters to achieve long-term success in international markets. It offers exporters the combined resources of Austrade and each partner organisation, providing local assistance and a direct link to Austrade's network and offices overseas. Given the wide geographic spread of the Trade Start network, I can sort of confidently say that hopefully there's a Trade Start officer in your region. I'll just go quickly through. In Queensland, we've got a Trade Start advisor in Cairns, Townsville, Mackay, Rockhampton, Sunshine Coast, Toowoomba. We have a Trade Start person in Brisbane, and as I said, here on the Gold Coast. We also, in the Northern Territory, we have a Trade Start officer up in Darwin. In New South Wales, we have Trade Start people in Gosford, Port Macquarie, Nowra, Tamworth, Wagga Wagga, South Sydney CBD, and also Canberra in the ACT. In Victoria, we have a Trade Start person in Melbourne, Albury. The map does show that we have somebody in Geelong, but we don't have currently somebody in that part of the world. In Tasmania, we have a Trade Start person in Hobart. South Australia, we have Mount Gambier, Riverland, Port Augusta and Adelaide. And over in Perth, is anybody here from Western Australia? No? Oh, yes. We have an officer in Perth and also down in the Bunbury, sort of in that Margaret River area. Can I just quickly ask, do you know, have you heard the term Trade Start before, or are you working with a Trade Start advisor? Just a quick show of hands. Okay, well that's good. This slide here talking about the types of services that Austrade and obviously our Trade Start network provides. So we provide international advice in regards to market selection, entry and expansion strategies. We provide information about doing business, business culture, etiquette, and obviously we work in regards to international promotions, trade shows, different missions. There's quite a number of premium food and sort of horticulture trade shows that happen in the international markets. We also provide information insights on emerging international trends and new business opportunities. So as I said, we've got quite an extensive network that is based overseas who are feeding back information and these insights to the team here in Australia, then obviously to share with the companies that we're working with. And as Austrade focuses its services in the growing and emerging economies across Asia, the Middle East, Latin America and Central Europe. All of the Austrade services that are provided through Austrade or through the TradeStart network here in Australia are provided at no cost. But we do have a tailored service mechanism, and this does attract a fee. And a lot of that work is done overseas in the international markets. And I suppose the thing about tailored service, this is work that is undertaken on a fee-for-service basis because it's bespoke research tailored specifically to your business and your needs. It requires Austrade to dedicate resources to the individual pursuits of your business, and as I said, is undertaken by Austrade business development managers in country and draws on their experience and local connections. So, as I said there, talking about market research, identifying potential partners, service providers, we can arrange meetings for you. And then another service that we provide is we follow up meetings, get feedback from the importer or the customer that you're talking to, because it's important to do that follow up as quickly as possible. And some markets people might say, yes, we'd like to do business with you, but on further investigation, it's saying yes, but we'd like some more information. So that's part of the service that Austrade will provide. Just some of the online resources that are available via the Austrade website. There is a lot of information available there. So we have an export readiness indicator. That's a quick sort of Q&A that you can do, asking some questions about your business and providing some feedback to you in regards to what areas you might need to refocus on or have a look at before you get to that export ready stage. There's a lot of market profiles there. In terms of exporting horticulture, whether it be vegetables, also to different export markets. We've got an export template there as well too, where you're able to develop your own export strategy. And obviously one of the things that we do when we're having discussions with potential exporters is talk about what their strategy is, what markets they're looking at as a good starting point. And obviously that document can be developed and modified along the way. A lot of the Austrade events are also on the Austrade website, trade shows and different things. The food and agribusiness team will be initiating a newsletter that we'll send out to clients that Austrade is working with that will highlight, particularly in the food and agribusiness space, the events that are coming up, the trade shows, that type of thing. Austrade has a financial assistance program called EMDG, and this is where, this is probably the only, it is the only scheme where Austrade provides, or the federal government provides money to assist companies in regards to export development. The scheme in the first couple of years, the first 2 years, you're able to get reimbursed for 50% of your eligible export promotion expenses above a certain threshold. And then we're in that process now, coming up to the end of the financial year, where exporters will be getting their information together to submit their EMDG claim for the current financial year. There's the link on the Austrade website to information about EMDG, and that the number there, the 132878 number, is Austrade's information number, and they'll be able to put you through to a grants auditor in your particular state. Similar to Austrade, the EMDG team does have offices around Australia. I'll just mention this one quickly. We have Austrade's involved in the National Export Awards. It's a national program that recognises Australian companies for their export successes and their contribution to Australia's economic prosperity. Each state has their own export awards. I know in Queensland we have our Queensland Export Awards, and then the state winners go to the national ceremony, and that's in November later this year. There is a category for the agribusiness sector, so it's a great opportunity to promote your business potentially to a much greater market. I'll just quickly go through some slides here now. I guess this is probably a very stock standard traditional style of horticultural supply chain. You'd all be well aware that things are changing continually, and with respect to the global supply chains, we're seeing lots of changes taking place to the process, and we have importers and supermarket chains now working with growers and directly. We've got new regional hubs that are developing. Up here in Queensland, in Toowoomba, we have an airport that's just opened recently, looking at establishing links to China and Hong Kong. We've got a new international airport with access rights for Singapore Airline down in Canberra. So these things are developing all the time in terms of new export or regional hubs. So and also you've got freight and logistics companies now sort of playing a more of a service role in terms of consolidation, trading, documentation, that type of thing. I'll just quickly go through some of the strategies for export success, and this is based on consultation from the Austrade network, with our overseas teams and also with our onshore network as well too. Things that we look at when we're talking to exporters, we ask questions about target markets, assessing what the demand is for their particular products, market access. I think Paul mentioned free trade agreements. Free doesn't necessarily mean free. We still have to overcome a number of market access issues for commodities, different products. As I said, market research, understanding the competition, who your competition is in that market, and the type of logistics support for that particular market. I suppose in terms of Austrade's focus in horticulture trade development, we have a smallish team. We have limited resources, so our focus for the onshore team and the offshore teams in terms of horticulture trade is to build long-term client-customer relationships about specific opportunities where there is greatest potential for sustained export, taking into account demand. We're sort of aiming for that premium product end rather than ad hoc or price-driven transactional interest, and to encourage a long-term export-focused approach among Australian producers. As I said, in terms of positioning your products for export, different markets require different packaging, different labelling, pack sizes, different types of the way that things are presented. So it's important to have an understanding of how your product may need to look, or changes you may need to make for that particular market. And things like value adding, what sorts of things you can do to add value to your product in the market, differentiate it from perhaps a lower cost item in the market. This is in terms of our overseas network. We know who the competitors are in target markets. Then we're enabled through that discussion we have with importers. Generally Australian horticulture has a good image, a premium position, clean and green, but obviously a lot of markets are very competitive. So that's where the Austrade network can help you in that regard. Target customers, we do that through different activities and events. We engage, as I said, with different importers and customers. Austrade works heavily with the different state governments and other authorities in bringing customers to Australia, which is a very good way of showing them the whole process from growing right through to packing, through to having the product ready for export. I mentioned the service proposal there, and that's if you're going to a trade show and you're looking you'd like to have some meetings with the relevant importers during that trade show, that can be arranged in consultation with our teams overseas. I know that promotion and that type of thing and marketing are going to be covered in other presentations today, but when we're talking to exporters, we ask them to think about trade shows, to have a look at their own website. E-commerce is a big factor these days. When we're talking to exporters and customers, they will, if we're putting customers forward or exporters from Australia forward, they will have a look at your website and the information that's available on your website. And obviously we work closely in collaboration with the peak industry bodies like AusVeg, so that we're all heading in the one direction. We're coming to the end of the financial year, so we're in the process now of doing our market plans with each of our posts, identifying the opportunities from their markets, and then in part of that process is we share those market plans with the peak industry bodies as well, like AusVeg, and then it's a process of working through with the different members, so hopefully we can take advantage of those opportunities going forward. More recently, there's been a lot of talk about free trade agreements, and free trade agreements offer better access to key export markets. They certainly improve our competitive position, reduced import costs for Australian produce, and provide opportunities for make doing business easier. The word free, obviously in some markets, free doesn't mean access, so they are two separate issues, and I know that my colleague from the Department of Agriculture finally will talk about market access and those type of things. There is a portal that's available online, a DFAT portal, and this is where you can get more information in respect to the three free trade agreements currently in play. China, Japan and Korea. The section on your left enter the product keyword, you can just type in the word, you can type in asparagus, you can type in potatoes, you can type in onions, or if you know the harmonised tariff code, you can type in the tariff code as well to select the country, and that will give you the information about the tariff regime for that particular market. And for example, carrots in Japan, prior to the Japan Free Trade Agreement, the tariff was 3%, it's now 0%. China, prior to CHAFTA, was 13%, it's now 7.8%, and will be 0% on the 1st of January 2019. Asparagus, prior to CHAFTA, was 13% in China, currently 7.8%, and on the 1st of January 2019, it will be 0%. So it's important in regards to the free trade agreement because it's not lowering your price, your FOB price as such, it's the price at the other end. So for exporters, we're certainly encouraging them to have that discussion with their importer, the customs broker at the other end, in terms of taking the advantage of those free trade agreements in their particular market. Because as I said, that will lower the cost of your particular product entering into that market and obviously make you more competitive. Because we are, with free trade agreements, other countries do have free trade agreements, so in some markets we're ahead in some commodities, others are a little bit behind, or we're catching up, so it's important that we utilise those FTAs as much as possible. And just in terms of the free trade agreements, there's a heap of information that's available. You can get this via the DFAT website or through Austrade, through your trade advisor. There is a lot of information that's available, and it's changing continually, and we're happy to help you in that regard, point you in the right direction, because there is there's a lot of information that's contained on different websites, and we're happy to sort of point you in the right direction for your specific product. So just in conclusion, besides the Trade Start network, Austrade has a senior trade advisor in our food and agribusiness team dedicated purely to horticulture. Her name is Jenny van der Meeberg. Jenny, if you have any technical questions or need specific advice, please feel free to contact Jenny van der Meeberg there. We get tricked up in Australia with her surname, where to put dots and spaces and all sorts of things, so there's the email there for you. And obviously we work very closely with the Austrade, AusVeg Peak Industry Association, so Jenny, her details are well known to AusVeg. I'll be here for the remainder of the day also, so I'm happy to meet and talk with any of you that require any information in terms about export, who the appropriate contact would be in your part of Australia, and I look forward to meeting as many of you as possible during the course of the day. Thanks very much for your attention. Thank you.